Kamala the cop, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah. The Crime Bill author has picked California's top cop to be vice president in a move that no one can exactly describe as surprising, but that many of us were in fact dreading.
I wonder why if he's going to see because my whole thinking like my most recent thinking before he did announce was that it was going to be Susan Rice. I just
Yeah.
assumed that they weren't going to go with Kamala. One, because of her background as a prosecutor. Two, because why would it be delayed so long if they were just going to go with Kamala, who is who we thought that it was going to be anyway? It also kind of just comes as like a non-news event. It's like, oh yeah, okay, it's Kamala. We all
Yep.
kind of thought that. We all kind
As
of already got
expected.
that news. Like,
Yep.
what struck me about this whole like waiting for Biden's VP pick is one, learning really, how little democracy is involved in all of this. Like, it is Biden's fucking choice who he runs with. And that person has a really high likelihood of being our president, and nobody. I mean, like, I guess you're picking them if you're voting for the Biden Harris ticket when you participate, but it just underscores how limited and lousy and just kind of like, our democracy is like a illusion,
Yeah.
much
And to
more
be
than it is a real,
To be honest, I don't even think Biden wanted to pick Harris as his choice. I think in his ideal world, he would have gone with, Pete Buttigieg or Beto O'Rourke or something. I think that this was even less democratic than what you're making it out. I think that Kamala was, who the Democratic establishment wanted to be president even before he won the primary. No one was really on Biden's. It wasn't exactly the cool position to be pro-Biden at the beginning of the Democratic primary in 2019. And Kamala Harris was really being pushed as the new fresh face, the new heir to the
Yeah, she
Obama
seemed to be a
legacy.
real contender
Yeah,
when
and
the
that first
initial
debate,
announcements were coming out.
the
Yeah.
first debate, she actually had a really good performance. A lot of people were calling her like a female Obama, stuff like that. I mean, it was very obvious that
Yeah,
the
there was a
likes
real
that
media runway for
the
her.
CNN crowd, the MSNBC crowd, she's like their ideal candidate. She checks all the diversity boxes, but still, totally maintains the status quo of the Democratic
You
Party.
could
Her platform.
totally see her on Oprah,
Oh yeah, yeah,
The View,
and
crushing it.
yep,
Like,
yep. And I mean, she's really no different policy wise than any of these other candidates when it comes to her rhetoric. Although only difference being that sometimes she pretends to be progressive, like during the primary when she pretended to be in favor of Medicare for
yeah,
all.
that was so
Uh,
weird. She literally
yeah,
raised her hand on the debate stage and
yeah,
then followed up for a little bit. And then she was like, no, wait, I was confused.
yeah.
And then she was like, wait, but I don't know. She just does kind of seem like a shady politician, which, I mean, of course, Joe Biden was going to choose a shady politician as his running mate because he's a shady politician himself. It's just somebody that's going to, continue his harsh, tough on crime, corporate handout, giveaway politics after he's gone, if he does, kick the bucket while he's president.
Yeah, and that's the infuriating thing too, is that Kamala Harris was pretty roundly rejected by the Democratic primary voters.
She
Her charade
struggled to get over
quickly.
10% ever.
Yeah, and she was one of the first to drop out despite being endlessly hyped by the media. And here she is now already and teed up to inherit the presidency essentially after Biden croaks or makes it to the end of his 4 years just to be anointed, the next party candidate after a primary, which may or may not happen. A lot of us are hoping that someone like AOC or something will primary her, but it seems like at this point
Senator
the
Nina
Democratic
Turner.
Party's lined up for the next 4 years to be the
Yeah.
party of police state and corporate plutocracy. Kamala Harris basically represents the exact police state which the activist left is at war with on the streets of Portland and Chicago right now. The federal police state, which has become the bipartisan consensus.
And not
Uh,
to mention that on the flip side, you have the people who are, raiding the Federal Reserve,
yeah,
led by Steve Mnuchin,
yep.
who Kamala also has a little bit of a too friendly relationship with because he's a fucking criminal that she decided to prosecute, unlike those mothers of truant
Which he did
children
not
that she
decide to
wanted to throw
prosecute.
to fucking jail.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous, man. And the fact that this is supposed to be like somehow a win for the, criminal justice reform movement is so laughable.
Right.
I think it's so shallow and hollow that it's going to be resoundingly rejected. Do you think that she's the best choice out of the? I mean, obviously, I think that Karen Bass would have been a better decision.
Yeah.
for the left. At least that would have been more palatable to me, at least out of the options. But do you think that Kamala Harris is a better decision than Susan Rice or Gretchen
I
Whitmer,
do.
the people that look are going to be like the potential options?
I think she's a better choice than Susan Rice, yeah, because she doesn't bring with her all of the, scandals of the Obama
Benghazi shit.
administration, yeah. But ultimately, I mean, I think it's just kind of, she doesn't really add that much to the ticket. She also doesn't really take too much away. Like you alluded to, she's also a tough on crime kind of Democrat, at least in her record would show. I don't know about rhetoric, but, she doesn't really, I don't think she's really going to turn off many of the people that are already solidly in the vote blue, no matter who camp. So in that sense, I guess it's fine. I guess it'll rally up the
It kind of seems also like he learned a little bit, or he's trying to alter it a little bit. So it's like he didn't go with somebody like a Tim Kaine who's like really unknown. Like
totally like
totally like who the fuck is Tim Kaine before Hillary picked him? Like unless you were like really plugged into U.S. politics, like you did not know who the fuck Tim Kaine, or unless he was like from your state. But I do think that they tried to pick somebody with a little bit of a higher profile, somebody a little bit at least that checked all of the I guess I don't know what you would want to call them: gender, race, age. Diversity. Like all the superfluous shit that nobody actually like I understand that representation is important, but I don't think it should come at the cost of like actual policy, obviously. So it's just kind of like Biden pretending to give a handout to people who want change and progress for this country, and pretending to give some sort of a concession in the form of Kamala Harris, but it's a total non-concession.
Yeah, and let's remember, this is the as Tulsi Gabbard pointed out, this is the woman who locked up thousands of black people for smoking marijuana, and then laughed about it and said, "Of course I've smoked weed. I'm Jamaican." When asked about it by an interviewer, the same woman who,
how unconscionable is that? Like it's so fucking crazy to me. Like you are responsible for ruining people's lives. And you're like, oh yeah, fuck it, I've smoked a joint. Fucking who hasn't, right? Sorry, you're poor. Yeah, it's a fucking poor crime.
Like, but she doesn't deserve to be in jail because she's one of the, one of the lords, not one of the serfs, apparently. And
yeah, exactly. It's the most indicative thing. It's one of the most indicative elements of the class divide. Not the most telling aspects of the class divide. It's like, how is the fact that you've done insert drug here going to be received? Like I didn't inhale, right? Like we all know all these fucking things, right? Well, those people ruined countless, like millions of lives destroyed because of the war on drugs.
Yep. And also and meanwhile, refusing to lock up criminals like Steve Mnuchin, like you mentioned, was the leader of One West Bank, a highly criminal organization that was actually her entire staff, her prosecutorial staff recommended that she press charges just due to the insane criminality and undeniable obscenity of this man and his bank's crimes, foreclosing on people like grandmothers and people that weren't properly warned or that hadn't been able to pay their payments yet, were victims of the housing crisis. She refuses to prosecute that guy, and then later accepts a pretty decent campaign donation from her when she runs in 2016. But meanwhile, the truant mothers, or the mothers of truant children, the nonviolent drug offenders, all these people, they get the short end of the stick. They have to.
She wants to come after them with the full force of the law. I mean, it's honestly, to me, Kamala Harris really isn't that much different than getting Amy Klobuchar for the vice president.
Not at all.
Like the idea that it's being presented as like, oh, well, we can't have Amy Klobuchar because of we need criminal justice reform. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, Kamala Harris has done absolutely nothing to earn the mantle of somebody who could, change our criminal justice system for the better. In fact, she spent her whole career proving why she's not the person for that job. So at least, I mean, I don't know. I obviously it's so obvious to people like us who watch these things all the time and read these things all the time, but I think that, a lot of people who, don't have the time or energy to plug in all the time, it does look like, oh, okay, now we are getting somebody who's like a progressive prosecutor, which is an oxymoron. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is, oh, okay, see, Biden can be moved to the left, and it will be used as that justification. See, he was going to pick Amy Klobuchar, but now look at what he's doing. Look at what he's responding to them. But it's a total farce. It's all theater.
Yeah. Well, and that's another point is that, people have been saying to push Biden to the left. Oh, we can push Biden to the left. Well, this is the first now shot across the bow. We have not been able to push Biden to the left. Kamala Harris is the exact opposite of Biden being pushed to the left. If anything, it's him being pushed to the right because he's afraid of being tied to the defund the police movement, to the chaos in the streets, and he wants to pick a law and order vice president to make sure that all the moderates
And he wants to hush it out.
Yeah, he wants to make sure that he's not associated with those dirty leftists in the streets. So if anything, he's been pushed to the right now, not left. And, the demands of the protesters have just been completely ignored, and now their faces have been spit in because a cop is the heir to the throne of Biden, who's, the architect of the situation we're in now. So in my opinion, this is just totally emblematic of what the left is going to squander its time on over the next 4 to 8 years, which is helplessly trying to push this broken party, which now welcomes George W. Bush into its fold, trying to push
and
it
Dick
left.
Cheney.
Yeah, and Dick Cheney.
War criminals, hold hands and unite. Fucking
Indeed.
Obama. We got Dick Cheney. We got George Bush. Let's do it.
And it's so sad. It's so
we
sad to
tortured people in Abu Ghraib.
It's so sad to see the likes of Bernie Sanders and people that I actually respect come out now and pretend that this is something to celebrate, pretend that I think Bernie himself called Kamala like a masterful legislator or something ridiculous like that, and it's just sad that people like Bernie, people are gonna now
Bernie gave up, man. Bernie, it's all out of Bernie. The fight's out. You know what? He's old. I get it. I would give up if I were him too.
And to be fair, Kamala is working with him, I think, on a bill alongside Senator Markey, which is like some form of a $200 a month payment type of deal, which, on paper is something to get excited about. It's cool that Kamala's been, kind of putting herself at the front of this fight for a UBI style thing. But then I just remember how she also co-sponsored Bernie's Medicare for All bill and pretended to fight for that too until, push came to shove and the donors called her and she dropped that real
all theater, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just tough to get excited about this from literally any angle. I think a lot of us are, kind of going through some pain right now. Not that it wasn't expected.
Yeah, I think that the other thing that's a bummer is that I don't think this is going to change fucking anything about Biden's popularity. I think he's still going to win the election.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find ourselves in like another a repeat of what was going down in 92, right? Which is when Bill Clinton won handedly.
Mm-hmm.
But only because Ross Perot stole 20 million. I stole. I don't like that language, but I mean, you know what I mean. Ross Perot earned 20 million votes on a harsh libertarian message that definitely pulled voters that would have gone for George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah.
And that was when the Democrats, who didn't actually get that high of a turnout, we're like, oh, this is the most popular messaging ever. We're going to pretend to be Republicans on basically every issue. So you get like trade policy that Ronald Reagan had wet dreams about passed under Bill Clinton. Yeah. You know what I mean?